Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is What If Naruto Build Ultimate Harem with Mikoto Yugito Yuugao Mei Fu Kurotsuchi Tayuya Karui Hana and Anko, Part 2. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And comment for next part. And now let's start the fanfic. Come here Naruto, it's time for my gifts. Revan beckoned him over with a gloved hand. Naruto obediently moved over as Revan too handed him a lightsaber. Naruto took it into his hands and ignited it with another, snap hiss. The blade this time was black as midnight with a menacing red glow about it. It seemed to scream danger to anyone who saw it. It's amazing as well, Master Revan. I will guard it with my life. Naruto bowed as Revan pet his head. Naruto, the next two gifts are linked to one another. I want you to wear my armor and take my name when I am gone. Revan crouched in front of Naruto as he looked him from eye to visor. Promise me Naruto. But where are you going to? Naruto asked uncertainly as Revan and Galen shared a sad glance before sighing and turning back to Naruto. We are finally going to join our family and friends as one in the unifying force. Naruto started to tear up as he let out a soft sob as he didn't expect the two men who had trained him from 3 years ago to be gone from his life so suddenly. Revan and Galen brought him into a three-way hug as they comforted the boy they had begun to see as a younger brother. I know it's hard Naruto, but we have delayed ourselves long enough and in the end we are all a part of the force, so I want you to promise me Naruto, take my armor and continue my legacy. Revan told him softly as Naruto wiped away his tears and nodded once. I promise Revan-sensei, I will miss you guys a lot, Naruto admitted as the two men had similar smiles though you could not see Revan's one. Goodbye Naruto and may the force be with you. They said in unison as their bodies seemed to fade away into blue particles that swirled around Naruto once before floating away into the forest. Naruto just stood there as he felt a sudden surge in his force power before he too faded out from the force forest for the last time. Mindscape. Kyuubi was lying on her bed reading a random book Naruto had generated inside of the mindscape. Apparently Naruto had turned the sewer-like place into a 2-story house around 2 years ago. The book was about a knight who battled against numerous monsters and demons to regain his honor and ended with him succeeding the current ruler of the kingdom and marrying the princess before living happily ever after. Where's my happily ever after? Am I just a demon for someone to kill so they can marry a princess? Kyuubi thought as she sighed before flinging the book into the corner of the room. Wow, what's wrong with the book? A familiar voice called out as she turned her head and saw an amused-looking Naruto holding up the book she had thrown. Overused plotline, Kyuubi joked with a small smile before she seemed to notice the somber aura around Naruto. Hey, what happened? Revan-sensei and Galen-sensei have gone on to join the force. He finally said as his voice cracked as tears threatened his vision once again. I promised Revan-sensei that I would continue his legacy, and I intend to do so. They must have taught you everything they knew already and believed you would advance from there on your own 2 feet. Kyuubi reasoned as Naruto nodded and sniffed while he wiped away the moisture from his eyes. I guess you're right Q-chan, Naruto sighed as he fiddled with the switch of his lightsaber, catching Kyuubi's interest. They left you a lightsaber. 2 lightsabers, one from each of them. Naruto corrected as he thumbed both of them to life, one blackish-white blade and one reddish-black blade. Naruto swung them in a few basic strokes while Kyuubi watched the deadly light show the blades seem to weave. He eventually thumbed them off as he slumped onto the bed. You must miss them already. Kyuubi voiced his thoughts aloud as she pulled him into a hug as the tears he held back started to fall as his shoulders shook with every gasp of air he took. I can't believe they're gone, he cried onto Kyuubi's shoulder as she rubbed his back soothingly until the tears finally died down as he brought himself back under control. Thanks Q-chan. Anytime Naru-kun, it's normal to hurt when you lose someone that is precious to you. Kyuubi released him from her hold as she unconsciously noted that she had felt complete with Naruto in her arms. Promise me you won't leave me, Q-chan. I don't think I would be able to continue on if I lost you too. He admitted as he looked at the demoness beside him, who flicked him on the forehead with 2 fingers. Baka, didn't I promise you that I would never leave you? Why don't you meditate? It looks like you could use it to clear the depressing thoughts from your mind. Kyuubi suggested. I think so too. Naruto went into the lotus position as he closed his eyes, once again clearing his mind of all thoughts and synchronized with the force flow around him. He could sense the presence of Kyuubi beside him before spreading out his awareness across the entire village when he was suddenly hit with a powerful jolt in the force. Naruto's eyes snapped wide open as he clutched his chest with his hand, causing Kyuubi to look at him worried. I sense a disturbance in the force. It sounded like multiple cries of terror before they suddenly vanished from the force altogether. He said in a disturbed tone before fading from the mindscape and appearing back in his apartment. He saw a storage scroll in his lap that wasn't there before. He quickly unsealed it to reveal his 2 lightsabers and a modified version of Revan's armor and cloak. In a split-second decision, Naruto decided this would be a good time for the legend of Darth Revan to make itself known once more. He tore off his clothes in a second and started to don the armor of his deceased mentor. He stood in front of a mirror and for a moment he thought he was looking at his mentor. Due to all the physical training Naruto had been doing for the past 3 years, he now stood at an impressive 1.6 meters for his age and was built solidly but not overly so. The armor's color scheme seemed to have been altered since the plates were now completely black with red trims and the visor was now a glaring crimson. Damn, I look cool. Now I know why Revan-sensei always chose to wear his armor around all the time, either that or the fact he didn't have any clothes under it. Naruto thought before he threw the black hood of his cloak over his helmeted head and vanished in a swirl of leaves. Uchiha District. Sasuke had a smile on his face as he raced back home after the academy had ended. He had aced his test and couldn't wait to tell his parents and Itachi. He cheerfully greeted the Pocky store owner on his way back. He never knew what his brother found so enjoyable about the snack. As he rounded the corner leading to the clan grounds, he paused as he sensed that something wasn't right. His smile vanished as he increased his speed to his home. Why do I smell blood coming from the direction of the clan grounds, and is that sulfur? Sasuke thought as he ran through the clan gates and was greeted by the horrific sight of bloodied and cut-up bodies of various clan members lying on the ground. What the hell is going on? Sasuke started to panic as he tried to process the images in his mind before running off in the direction of his home, hoping that nothing had befallen his parents or sibling. Foolish boy. Mikoto tried to scream as her recently deceased body of her husband slumped to the floor in front of her, but not a single sound escaped from her lips. She watched on horrified as she stared into the familiar eyes of her eldest son as he advanced on her with his sword poised to strike. What are you doing, Itachi? Why are you doing this? She finally managed to scream out as Itachi closed his eyes with a sigh and raised his tanto. Sorry, Ka-san. With that, Itachi swung his blade in a sweeping arc, expecting the familiar sound of steel cutting through flesh. Instead, what he got was the sound of steel impacting against steel. He opened his eyes to see a crimson visor staring right back at him. What do you think you're doing? The armor-wearing individual asked in a metallic voice. His right hand was outstretched and had blocked his blade with his gauntlet. Get out of my way. This matter does not concern you, stranger. Itachi replied in his usual monotone voice as he tried to assess the threat level of the newcomer. It became my business when I see you trying to harm such a beautiful woman. The figure countered lightly as Mikoto felt her cheeks heat up despite the situation. Very well then, I shall just dispose of you and finish the job later. Itachi jumped backward to create some distance before blurring out of existence and reappearing behind the individual. He went for sweeping side slash at neck height. The figure just blocked it with his left gauntlet before swiftly spinning around and placing his palm against Itachi's stomach. Ketone. Chikara no Pushu. Force release. Force push, the metallic voice whispered as Itachi suddenly flew backwards due to an unknown force that emitted from his opponent's palm. Ketone. Itachi thought in confusion as he hacked up a mouthful of blood. He was suddenly assaulted by the memories of a clone he had ordered to patrol the grounds for any survivors. Clone memories. The clone jumped on top of a pole to better view the area. He immediately spotted the running form of his little brother. He knew he couldn't kill his brother as he loved him too much, so he thought of a plan to give his brother some motivation to get stronger. Sasuke ran through the blood-soaked streets as he hurried to his house when suddenly his brother appeared in front of him. Just as he was about to hug him, Sasuke noticed that Itachi was dressed in his Anbu uniform and his tanto was covered with fresh blood. Aniki, what did you do? Sasuke asked in confusion. Itachi's clone just looked at him with indifference before examining the blood-covered blade of his tanto. Just killing this sorry excuse for a clan. What? Why are you doing this? Sasuke shouted in outrage. To test the limits of my power. Nothing more, nothing less, Itachi replied simply as he looked Sasuke in the eyes. I won't kill you today or tomorrow or even next week, but I will come for you eventually. So run, foolish little brother, and cling on to your pathetic existence, hate me and use that hatred to grow stronger. Why, Aniki, why? Sasuke whispered as he looked into Itachi's eyes that suddenly changed into a tri-bladed shuriken. Because I simply can, Tsukuyomi. Moon Reader, Sasuke heard Itachi say before his world suddenly vanished and he found himself in a black and red world. Welcome to my world, little brother. In here I control everything including time. For the next 72 hours you will watch me slaughter the clan and our parents repeatedly. Itachi's clone watched as Sasuke screamed and curled up into a ball after 3 seconds. Damn, I used up my remaining chakra using Tsukuyomi. Back to present. So that's what my clone did. Never mind that. I have to focus on this battle, although almost half my chakra went into that clone. Itachi thought as he wiped the blood from his lips and stood back up. Why don't you just leave, Itachi-san? I don't feel like hurting one of the few people who actually bothered to save me from the mobs when I was young. The figure suddenly said, causing Itachi's eyes to widen comically. This guy is Naruto. When did he get so strong? Looks like I can't finish the mission. Itachi sheathed his tanto and looked at Naruto directly. I can sense the Hokage and Anbu coming already, so I guess you win this round, Naruto-kun. Itachi smiled slightly before leaving via a quick shunshin, leaving behind an amused Naruto and a gaping Mikoto. This person who defeated Itachi, an Anbu captain at age 13, is none other than Uzumaki Naruto. Mikoto thought as Naruto sighed and threw back his hood before removing his helmet. Mikoto blushed as she saw the angular face and wavy blonde hair that was slightly matted down due to sweat. Without the whisker marks he would look like a carbon copy of Minato. Naruto turned and looked at Mikoto before glancing at the corpse of Fugaku. He crouched down beside her and checked her for injuries. Areo injured in any way? No. You arrived just in time, arigato for saving me. Mikoto smiled slightly as Naruto just chuckled and replaced his helmet and hood. No problem, how could I stand by and watch someone scar this beautiful face? Now I must be off as reinforcements are coming in if they ask who saved you. Naruto looked her in the eye with his crimson visor. Tell them, Darth Revan did. Naruto then vanished into the shadows of the house as Mikoto could still feel the blush on her face at the compliment regarding her beauty. Not a minute later, Hiruzen and 2 full squads of Anbu arrived at the scene. Mikoto-san, what happened here? Hiruzen asked softly as he believed the woman to be traumatized by the death of her husband, but in reality Mikoto had been in an arranged marriage and never really loved Fugaku. Itachi just appeared out of nowhere and started attacking us. He managed to wound Fugaku severely before killing him. He was about to kill me when someone saved me. Mikoto trailed off as she remembered Naruto single-handedly holding off Itachi. Can you describe your savior, and did he tell you his name? Hiruzen asked politely while inwardly thinking. Who would be able to hold off Itachi-kun until we arrived? He wore red-trimmed black armor with a helmet and a cloak with a hood. As for his name, Darth Revan. Mikoto decided to honor her savior's wish to remain unknown. I see. Well, Mikoto-san, I think you would be glad to hear that we found Sasuke still alive. He began, causing Mikoto to brighten up considerably. Unfortunately, I think Itachi got to him and did something to his mind because he kept muttering something about hatred and avenging the clan. Oh no, my poor baby. Please take me to him right now, Hokage-sama. Mikoto cried out but thought about something as well. Since Itachi was fighting Naruto-kun the entire time, that means it was a clone, but that would mean Itachi wasn't at his full strength. Especially since he had just killed the rest of the clan. Wait, Naruto-kun. Where did that come from? With Naruto, Darth Revan. Naruto crouched in the shadow of a nearby tree using a technique he had learned from Kyuubi to mask his chakra presence so people wouldn't be able to sense him easily. He watched as the Anbu escorted a worried-looking Mikoto to the hospital for a checkup as well as to find her son. At least I was fast enough to save her, Naruto thought with a sigh as he leapt away from the scene with a force-enhanced jump. Why did you call her beautiful? Came Kyuubi's question, which caught Naruto off guard and almost caused him to smack face first into the next building. Why the heck did you suddenly ask that? He replied after he saved himself from a humiliating and painful experience. Just answer the question, she snapped, causing Naruto to blink. If he had learned one thing about Kyuubi, it was that she never snapped at him even during training. I was complimenting her. She does look beautiful despite her age. Naruto decided to humor her and answer. And I don't, she said quietly, causing Naruto to gain a look of understanding. Q-chan, are you jealous? He asked in surprise as he never took the red-haired demoness to be the jealous type. No. I was just wondering why you didn't tell me stuff like that. Q-chan, I never said that to you, not because I don't think you aren't beautiful, but because I can't find the words to even begin describing your beauty. Naruto answered honestly, causing her to blush uncontrollably while thanking the gods that she was in the mindscape so Naruto couldn't see it. Ah, thanks Naru-kun. Anytime, Q-chan. A month had passed since the Uchiha massacre. The Sandaime Hokage had put out a notice informing all ninjas to keep a lookout for a person matching Darth Revan's description. However, the ever-elusive Revan kept managing to leave the scene before any ninja forces could arrive. It's as if this Revan character could sense us coming from a mile away, but if that is so, then he has to be an excellent tracker ninja, or the very least an expert Byakugan user. Hiruzen thought as he puffed on his pipe. At any rate, at least he is foiling all this rape, murder and kidnapping attempts from the less savory side of Konoha's population. Hokage-sama, there is a Terumi Mei out here requesting permission to speak with you. She claims it's about something of great importance. His secretary's voice interrupted his thoughts. Send her in. Hiruzen replied before a beautiful teenage girl with long auburn hair walked into his office. He tried his hardest not to let his perverted side surface and coughed to regain some composure. Well, Terumi-san, what could you have to say to me that could be of so much importance? Hokage-sama, I am the current leader of the bloodline rebels in Kiri. Mei bowed slightly and sighed internally at the look of disbelief on the old man's face. I assure you that I am not joking. I was elected leader due to my dual bloodlines. I have the ability to combine my elements into sub-elements, which in my case would be fire and earth to create Yoden, lava release, and fire and water to create Futen, boil release. Most impressive for someone your age, so what have you come to ask of me, Terumi-san? Hiruzen asked as he took another puff of his pipe. I have come on the behalf of the Kiri rebels to plead our cause to you since Konoha respects their bloodlines. We hope that you would be so kind as to send some reinforcements to aid us in defeating the current Mizukage, Sanbi no Yugura of the Three Tails. Mei stated plainly without any beating around the bush. Hiruzen tapped his pipe as he seemed to be lost in thought and looked at the portraits of the former Hokages on the wall. What would you guys do, senseis, Minato? he thought as he turned back to an expectant May and sighed heavily knowing his duty outweighed his conscience. I'm sorry Terumi-san, but for the sake of my village I cannot participate in this conflict. You must see it from my point of view, for if I help you and you still lose then Kiri would be an enemy to us. Do you understand? Hi. I understand perfectly Hokage-sama. May said softly with disappointment evident in her tone as she turned around and walked out of the office. The Sandame sighed as he shook his head before going back to the paperwork that had suddenly appeared on his desk. Unknown to both of them, there was actually a third party listening in on their conversation. Looks like I'm going on a road trip. I heard that Kiri is nice this time of year. The shadow said as it vanished the next second. Streets of Konoha. May sighed dejectedly once again as she walked down the street. She had wasted her precious time coming to Konoha for no reason. The lecherous looks from the male population of the village weren't helping her mood either, and she couldn't threaten them since this wasn't her village. Stupid old monkey not helping us in the war, not even bothering to check the situation before giving his answer. When we win the war I'm so not allying with Konoha if he is still their leader. May thought to herself but was startled out of her thoughts when a voice called out to her from an alleyway. May turned her head in confusion as she spotted a cloaked figure beckoning to her. She followed him, her as she could handle herself if this was a trap. May-san, I heard that you might require aid in your rebellion against your village's current leader. The voice that came out of the cloak had a strange metallic quality to it, but she could recognize it as a male's. I might. What's it to you? May asked cautiously. I believe my services would be beneficial in your inter-village conflict. Listen to me before you go criticizing my skills that you do not know of. The figure replied. Isn't better to have someone help you rather than no one at all? May seemed to think hard about this before looking into the shadows of the hood. At least show me your face and tell me your name first. Very well, May-chan. The voice answered with a hint of mirth to it, causing May to flush slightly at the suffix. The figure threw back his cloak to reveal a black helmet with a crimson visor and trims. May stared at it fascinated until the figure spoke again. As for my name, you may call me Darth Revan. Darth Revan, May repeated as if testing the name on her tongue, before she smirked at him and replied with a wink. Well, Revan-kun, meet me at the gates this evening and we will head to Kiri. Naruto felt the heat rush to his cheeks at her actions before having to stifle a nosebleed that threatened to come out when he saw that she was purposely swaying her hips as she walked away. Nobody can out-flirt Terumi May, he. May chuckled inwardly as she continued walking away. What a hussy. Kyuubi injected into the situation as Naruto shook his head and sighed. Q-chan, what did I tell you about getting jealous? I am not jealous, damn it. Kyuubi roared in his brain, causing him a slight migraine. Alright, you're not jealous. Sheesh, you didn't have to shout so loud. Naruto groaned in his mind as he held his head slightly, causing Kyuubi to pout in his mind. You started it, you meanie. You know you will always be the most beautiful person to me, Q-chan. Naruto comforted her as the demoness blushed at the statement. Oh, of course I know you, baka. She replied heatedly to cover up her embarrassment, causing Naruto to sniffle and wipe a fake tear from his eye. Naruto just wanted to make Q-chan happy, but Q-chan called Naruto a baka. Naruto thinks Q-chan hates Naruto. Naruto wailed childishly. Baka, get serious. Don't forget you have to meet that lady at the gate in 2 hours' time, so I recommend you get some supplies for your trip. Kyuubi gave him a mental bonk on the head. Itai. Naruto thought as he clutched his head in mock pain. Don't hurt Naruto anymore, Q-chan. Naruto is going to get the supplies because Naruto is a good boy. He couldn't resist the Toby reference. 2 hours later, May stood at the gate with her escort. She glanced at the position of the setting sun. Terumi-sama, we should head out soon if we want to make it to Kiri by tomorrow morning. Her escort said as she looked around the village entrance trying to spot someone. There is no rush. I trust that Ao is competent enough to run operations when I am not there. Where is he? Mei added the last part under her own breath. Where's who? The same metallic voice replied from beside her. She turned her head and saw the cloaked individual standing beside her with his head to the side in a cute pose. Terumi-sama, I thought you said that the Hokage didn't send us any aid. The escort asked in confusion at seeing the slightly creepy cloaked figure standing there. This is Darth Revan and he has offered us his aid in dealing with Yugura's forces. Mei introduced Naruto, who just nodded his head slightly in greeting. Is one man going to make that much of a difference in the war? The escort asked in clear disbelief. Mei noticed Naruto made a slight gesture with his hand as he spoke. My skills are enough to turn the tide of this war. Naruto told the escort as the escort seemed to blink a few times before turning around and walking out the village. His skills are enough to turn the tide of the war, so we should head back now to Terumi-sama. The escort seemed to repeat the exact words in a monotone voice, causing Mei to look between the escort and Naruto in confusion. Okay, I give up. What exactly did you do to him? Mei asked after several seconds. Oh, that is simply a. Naruto paused for dramatic tension as Mei leaned in slightly. Secret. Mei damn near face faulted when she heard that. In the end, she just decided to stick with pouting, causing Naruto to chuckle in his metallic tone of Darth Revan. Do you know you look really cute when you pout like that, Mei-chan? He asked with a hidden grin, causing Mei to blush slightly before increasing her pace as she left Naruto behind. Hee payback's a bitch, Mei-chan. Several hours later. Terumi-sama, I think we should stop and set up camp here for the night since we won't be able to make it the rest of the way by tonight. The escort said as they dropped into a clearing in the middle of a forest. I guess you're right, we will set up the tents here for the night and leave first thing tomorrow morning. Mei stated before looking at Naruto, who was giving off a sheepish aura as he scratched his cloaked head. What is it, Revan-kun? I kind of had forgotten to bring my tent since I haven't traveled this far outside my village before, he replied with a nervous laugh while Mei had a gleam in her eye. Ooh, payback time, she thought with an inward snicker before looking at Naruto. Revan. Well, since you don't have one, then you could share mine. Mei trailed off suggestively, causing her escort to splutter incoherently until Naruto did the hand wave gesture again. You have no problems with us sharing a tent? Naruto muttered under his breath as the escort repeated the same words and went back to setting up the tents. Mei looked on dumbfounded as she watched this exchange since she didn't expect him to actually accept her proposal. Naruto had another unseen grin on his face. Mei-chan, don't we have to get started on our tent? Huh. Oh, right. Mei blushed heavily as she helped Revan, Naruto set up their tent and they entered it together once it was up. Naruto took off his helmet with a hiss of air escaping and shook his sweat-matted down hair back into its original spiky position. He stiffened when he heard a gasp from behind him. God damn it. I totally forgot we were sharing a tent. Naruto groaned in his mind before turning around to address the situation at hand. Wow, who knew he was this hot under that helmet? Mei thought with a blush when Naruto turned around and couldn't help but study his handsome visage. Well, this is my true face. Naruto sighed as Mei looked at him with a puzzled expression that Naruto thought looked cute on her. Why do you wear a helmet that covers your entire face when there are no deformities for it to cover up? She asked him, causing Naruto to sigh as he knew there was no backing out now. My real name is Uzumaki Naruto and I am the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. Yes, the same Kyuubi that attacked around 8 years ago. The Yondaime couldn't defeat it, so he resealed it into me. The villagers hate my guts for containing the Kyuubi, so they regularly beat me for that. I wear the mask so that they won't recognize me, and as a promise to a friend passed on. To suffer so much and still retain your sanity. Wait a minute. You are only 8 years old. Mei suddenly exclaimed, causing Naruto to chuckle and scratch his head. My appearance is a side effect of all my physical training for the past 3 years and accelerated growth due to containing Q-chan inside me. Q-chan? Mei voiced out, confused. Oh, the Kyuubi is a she and is actually very nice when you get to know her, and she only attacked on that night due to a genjutsu-influenced bloodlust. Naruto replied simply while Mei just blinked 3 times to process the information before pointing at the sky. Ha! Take that, you stupid bastards. The strongest tailed demon is female. She shouted suddenly, causing Naruto to sweat drop. I think I was wrong about her, Naru-kun. She and I are going to get along really well, Kyuubi mused in his mind, causing Naruto to sigh. Well, Mei-chan, I guess that's it for an explanation. Now let's turn in for the night since we have another long day ahead tomorrow, he said with a yawn to emphasize his statement. Sure, Revan-kun. Good night, Mei chirped with amusement in her voice. Night, Mei-chan, Naruto murmured as he fell asleep almost